Okay.
This meeting. Okay, continue.
This meeting is being recorded. I'm going into Facebook, and then we can get cracking.
You have the houses and stuff in the background here. You need to be.
Where?
Kacha. Kacha. You stand in the shade.
Hi everyone, welcome. Just gonna put us on Facebook somehow. Don't really, just they've changed the Facebook thing. Okay. Hi everyone, really excited to be with us today. What on earth is going on? Okay. Hi, as always excited to hear where you are, who you are and where you are in the world. I see lots of familiar names, which makes me excited. I'm excited to be back after many weeks of not doing the webinars. And I hope, I'm pretty optimistic that we have a great program today. And since we're dealing with actual nature, who knows what is going to happen, which makes it equally more exciting. Hi, Harriet in Larchmont, New York. We have Lester in Johannesburg in South Africa, Christine in the UK, Joella in Seattle. Already got 3 continents. Carol in Sarasota, Tel Aviv. Take that. I'll take Israel as Asia. That's 4 continents. Greetings from Malkus Cessna from Highland Park, Illinois. Shalom. Yes, Paul in Toronto. Brian in Lincolnshire. Excellent. Martha in Jerusalem, who's 5 minutes from the Gazelle Valley. So Martha, if you come quickly, you'll be Eileen in Malton, New Jersey, near Philadelphia. Hi, Sarit near Arad. Yes, Linda, there will be a recording of this and every webinar. It will be on our YouTube page. Just on the reminder email, it says how to access it, how to access the recordings. It will be up in about 20-ish hours. My name, by the way, is Lawrence Casimir. I'm part of the philanthropy team here at the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel, Israel's oldest and largest environmental NGO. We were founded in 1953 to prevent the draining of the Hula Valley, which unfortunately we failed mostly to do. Although we were vindicated when it was reflooded back in the 1990s. One of our areas we've been working on and developing for the last 10 years is urban nature. And the Gazelle Valley Park is really a flagship example of what urban nature can be. I remember growing up in London, and I remember going to parks where there were animals, but the animals were always were in cages, a bit like the zoo, or they were squirrels running up and down trees. So to have something in Israel, in Jerusalem, only 40-minute drive from my house, where there are gazelles running free, really in nature with ducks and frogs and some other animals, which hopefully we'll see in a minute. It's really, really amazing. And it really shows what can be done when you try and create a space for people and animals to both enjoy and to both flourish in. So in 2 weeks' time, as I said, this is a 2-parter. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll be having the second part with Amir Balaban, who is our Director of Urban Nature, talking about the history and development of the Gazelle Valley Park and showing lots of photos of how the park is developed. over the decades and also the most recent years, because it really is staggering how the park has evolved and grown and flourished over that time. But for now, we're going to focus on our program for today, which is a live tour of the park. I spoke to Yael and Ika a bit before, and what we've come up with excites me. So I'm hoping it will excite you. But enough of me. So I'm going to turn you over now to Yael Hammerman-Soler, who is the park director, who is a trained architect by, I guess, education, but is now in charge of this park. The park I've been told to mention is Jerusalem Municipal Park. It is not an SPNI project. We do run it on behalf of the municipality because we're awesome and we do an amazing job. And holding the camera today is Ika Chipman, who is a director of marketing for this and many other projects in Israel. But Ika, if you want to take yourself off of mute. Yael and Ika, it's over to you.
Hi, so we're here today, this beautiful afternoon. Ika and myself. Ika, say hi, so people will see who you are.
So people will see who I am. Wait 1 second.
So I hope.
So hi everybody, I'm Ika. We're going to be running this webinar together. And yeah, I'll be behind the camera most of the time.
Okay, and it's funny, Lawrence began with seeing animals in a cage because people that saw the previous webinars about Gazelle Valley saw that we are a very large open space, 250 dunams inside a city, but it's actually fenced. And we're gonna talk about that today and walk near this fence. And the other thing that we're going to show today is the fenced tortoises that we have in the park. We're going to talk about that, which is an amazing project that began 3 years ago. Shortly, we'll get into details about this project. But these tortoises, we're very sad to say, have to be in a cage right now until they're released to go back to nature. So,
and we're going to be releasing one.
Yeah. So let's begin with the tortoises.
Let's start with the tortoises.
Okay. So first of all, let's see the cage. Ika, show them the cage. So
let's get the size of this thing. So that's how big the cage is. It's not exactly, you know, a small homemade cage.
So the question is, why is there a cage inside a urban nature park, which is supposed to be, just like Lawrence said, it's supposed to be open and free for the animals and the human beings and the wildlife to be together, free. Well, the problem with the tortoises in Israel that, like other animals, they're slowly disappearing from nature. When I grew up as a child, I used to go outside of my house and just see many tortoises just running around everywhere. And it was one of the most fascinating and fun things to do, is just to find one and to see how it walks and to enjoy it. But the problem is that a lot of people saw those tortoises like I did and decided it was a very, very nice, easy animal that they can bring to their homes. They don't need to walk out with them like dogs, or they don't need to feed them like cats. They just throw the leftovers of the salad from the evening dinner, and they're all okay. And then the kids can say that they have an animal at home, a pet. Yeah. So slowly, those tortoises disappeared from nature, but they didn't disappear just because human beings took them. They disappeared like a lot of the nature in Israel and all around the world, is because the open spaces are shrinking and the ecological corridors are getting developed and cut into very, very small pieces of areas. And those tortoises, like other animals,
need wild space.
Need a lot of wild space. And when they're going from one place to another, and they suddenly see a road that they don't know or didn't see before, or have someone, some predator run after them, they find themselves in those roads, and they get killed. And slowly, we see that the amount of tortoises we see outside are shrinking.
Another important thing is, what do they eat? Because if you put a tortoise in a place with some nice grass, then it will eat the grass. But that's like feeding a human being of maybe one kind of food for its whole life. If I would feed a person only rice for a lifetime, that person wouldn't be very healthy. So tortoises can survive for a certain amount of time, but they become unhealthy. They have unhealthy babies, unhealthy offsprings. They don't survive illnesses. They don't survive attacks. They become very prone to predators. So it's not only about getting run over by cars.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole ecosystem is becoming less suitable for them.
Exactly. So
let's go inside.
Let's go inside. Okay, and we'll go on talking inside.
Somebody's asking about the gazelles. We'll get to the gazelles. The previous tour started with the gazelles, and this one will also get to the gazelles. We understand that some people have seen other tours of ours, other materials of ours, and know the place, and other people don't know.
Okay,
so some of this will be for newcomers, and some of this will be for second, third timers.
And Lawrence, they can get to all the webinars, right? Somehow.
Yeah, everything's recorded, but we decided to start with the tortoises because they're very reliable to be here, unlike the gazelles.
Okay, so we're standing here in the fenced area of the tortoises. This project started when a volunteer that worked with us for a year came to me and said, you know, last week I was sitting in the front desk of the park, and a guy brought 5 tortoises and asked me if we can release them in the park. And he said, what are we supposed to do with the tortoises? And I said, I don't know. What are we supposed to do with the tortoises? So this amazing volunteer said, okay, I'll research it. And he found out that there is a real problem with the tortoises and their survival in Israel. And he said, listen, I have an idea. Let's create a place where we can save and bring back to nature the tortoises that were taken out from nature to homes. And I said, you know what? Let's try. So we got in contact with the the governmental authority for the protection of nature, which is called, Lawrence, do you know the exact phrase in English?
The National Parks Authority.
Thank you, Ika, the National Parks Authority. And they said, you know what? It's a very, very good idea. We have a problem with tortoises. Let's call the public. Let's let them know an announcement that we're willing to take here tortoises that were taken from nature, and we're not going to press charges, and we're not going to do anything to those people that decide to bring back the tortoises that they took illegally from nature, even if it was 30 years ago. And we did it over Passover 3 years ago. And we said, okay, let's wait.
Now imagine the mothers clean. No, okay, what did we expect? We expected Omer, let's honor him by name. Yeah. Omer Darel.
Omer Darel was the volunteer.
Is the volunteer. I think
today his name a student of, he's studying ecology.
Yeah, remember the name, you're going to hear it a lot.
Definitely.
In future of nature preservation in the world, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Omer thought we'd get 20, 30 tortoises. He didn't believe we'd get any more, neither did we.
So the first day we got 33 from one home, okay? There was a guy bringing a box and told us an amazing story how his grandparents took the first generation from nature, and now they have more than 30 tortoises living at their house. The second day, we published it. We were on all the news everywhere, in TV, in magazines, in Ynet, everywhere. I was called to talk, and I think
101
Yeah.
television programs and
And
stuff. Yeah.
the day after, we got more. And by the end of Passover, which was only 3 or 4 days holiday, we got 350 tortoises here in the Gazelle Valley. So in the beginning, we didn't have this amazing cage. We had a very, very small cage that Omer and his friends built for us. And we were packed with tortoises. And our vet didn't know what to do because he was supposed to check them and see if they're okay to put them back to nature.
I think it's important to add that a tortoise, I mentioned this before, a tortoise, if you feed, if you're just a regular family, you're probably feeding your tortoise cucumbers most of the time, and maybe occasionally some other leaf like lettuce or something. If I need to parallel this to kids, this is just about like feeding a kid nothing but chocolate for a lifetime. That means these tortoises have no real immune system, and their shell looks kind of bumpy rather than being smooth.
It's bumpy and it's bumpy and very, very soft.
Fragile.
And very soft and very
fragile.
That means that if they're put outside nature, they'll have predators eating them in a second. The predators immediately spot those tortoises that are not healthy enough to survive and will not
go straight for them.
Yeah. So we found very, very difficult cases. It was very sad to see. And we understood that we have to have a better place for them that could actually hold hundreds of tortoises at once. What we found out that instead of becoming a place that we're bringing tortoises back to nature, we're creating a kind of small hospital or how do you say?
A quarantine.
Mini tortoise hospital.
Yeah. And our vet comes every once in a while and checks if they're better off, if they had enough of the natural food that they're supposed to get, and if they're strong enough to be brought back to nature. So this is one of them. Okay, this is a tortoise female. She was brought here a few days ago, and I think she's healthy enough. I don't think, I know she's healthy enough to put her outside in the Gazelle Valley. You see that her shell is quite
a bit dirty.
Quite smooth, and she looks quite healthy. We'll show you some other ones that we're sorry to say have to stay here in our clinic for a bit longer. And we're gonna release her today. Okay, we're
going to walk a little bit out of when we start the fence walk.
Yeah.
Or we'll do it now.
No, we'll wait a minute. We'll see some more tortoises. Another thing that happens to them when they're with human beings, they actually get diseases that human beings have, but they don't affect human beings regularly. But they do affect the tortoises, and then they go out to nature and they spread those diseases like herpes and salmonella, diseases that we know from human beings and other mammals, but we don't expect to see them in tortoises. So let's look for some more, the ones that I'm sorry to say will stay in the cage. So we have 2 here.
We had 2.
Yeah.
Like half an hour ago here.
I still see one. I hope we'll see the other. So you see the very, very warm sun of May in Israel.
Wait. Before you lift it, let's see if we can. This is a natural kind of behavior for a tortoise. Okay, hiding underneath something in the middle of, finding something to hide below.
Yeah, protecting
So these are going to stay here.
They're going to stay here. They still didn't have a checkup by the vet. Here we have the other one. So these are also 2 females. But they should stay here for a little bit longer before we can release them.
We can release them now.
if we can release them, yes. So how do we know things about them? So let's see how we know if it's a male or a female. If we look at their tummy, we see that the females have a quite flat tummy, and the males have like a curve that looks like a bowl. So they could actually go
in the belly.
On the
belly.
belly.
Male's belly will be more like a bowl, so it's easier to climb on top of the female. And the male's tail will be a little bit longer than what you see here.
Mm-hmm. And you see here that it has some marks on its back. It means that it was somehow damaged. We don't exactly know how. To know their age, we can look at those circles surrounding this core circle. And each circle, very, very small circle, is about a year in its life. The tortoises live about 85 years.
Which means that when somebody actually picks up a tortoise from nature, the tortoise could be 20, 30 years old, and this person is sentencing the tortoise to a lifetime of inability to live its tortoise life.
Right. So this cage is divided to two. We have this part, which is for the older ones, and the most fragile ones are the babies, of course. So let's go see if we can find a baby. So we found a baby for you just before the webinar. This is actually not a very young baby. I hear some running around. No. But this is a toddler. Okay, it's about 1.5 years old. So I'm gonna show you some horrible things that people do at their homes to the tortoises. See, this one was painted with some marker, probably so the kids could identify him, name him in some way. And he was brought here several weeks ago. So he should stay here for a little while, because if we put him outside in nature, he'll probably get eaten very, very fast. The crows love tortoises. That's why we're fencing also the ceiling of this place. And here we have a smaller one. As you can see. And he's
hard to say if the coloring.
He's a little bit damaged. So we're gonna leave him for a while, and we'll have our veterinarian have a look at him. So most of them will not be able to go back to nature outside of the Gazelle Valley. Some will. Tortoises that came for just a week or 2 weeks, and we know they haven't been prisoned for longer than a month or two. We know that we can take them back to nature. Or tortoises that were born here because a mother, where's the one that we wanted to release? We just lost the tortoise we wanted to release.
She released herself, basically.
She released herself. Well, the cage is open, so.
We'll probably find her soon. Okay.
So I was saying that we can release to the nature outside of the park just tortoises that we know for sure that they were not imprisoned for very long, and we see that they don't have any illnesses. But the rest of them we could just free here inside the Gazelle Valley Park because Ika is trying to look.
No,
Ika is looking for. We'll find it later.
We'll find it later. We're not. We can. Yeah.
the rest of them we don't want to put outside nature so they won't contaminate the species outside, the tortoises outside, and bring them illnesses that those tortoises got when they were in the homes of the people.
So I gotta say, I think this project is it's definitely one of my favorite projects within the Gazelle Valley. I think also yours, yeah, right?
Yeah.
No, we can keep the camera. It's okay. I think also yours, right? Because if we need to put it all in a nutshell, then what's the story here? It's about a volunteer who found a problem, who went and basically told people, hey, what you're doing is illegal. And instead of everybody just nodding politely at our listen, what you're doing is illegal statement, people actually brought their tortoises and stopped what they were doing, which is kind of not what you would normally expect people to do. But we see time and again in the Gazelle Valley that when you give people responsibility, they take it rather than throwing it back at you.
Yeah.
I don't know why it keeps on surprising us.
I think that's one of the reasons that volunteers love to come here. And in this opportunity, I want to say, Amanda, you probably heard her in webinar, asked me, say, we always need more volunteers. Okay, it's 250 dunams that need a lot of work. People preaching and talking and educating about nature preservation, bringing amazing projects like the one we just showed you, and
especially if you speak languages such as English, Arabic, Yiddish, French, anything other than Hebrew, we're even more short of than otherwise.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that was the tortoise story.
Yeah. So let's go to the next item in our webinar, and we're going to talk about the gazelles. And we thought before the webinar that the best way to talk about the gazelle is to do the fence walk.
Wait a minute, what's this rope we're crossing here?
Okay, this rope that we're crossing now is the rope that divides the park from the intensive area. The one that belongs to people and the natural habitat together, but we've now crossed to the area where only wildlife and staff, if they have to, visit. Okay, but we have to walk here twice a day. So we have volunteers again walking in the fence walk, checking the fence all around the 2 kilometers fence, because we're inside the city. We have to protect the wild animals that are inside from predators that live in the city, like jackals and wild dogs, cars, people.
Stuff happens. This is a dynamic place. There's nature, there's weather, there's cars, there's people. Stuff happens. You want to see what's going on? Yeah, we could put cameras everywhere. We could put sensors all over the place. There's nothing like the human eye that walks across the fence and sees what's going on. I suggest we give, because some people have seen our stuff and some people are first time meeting us. So let's give a few minutes about what the Gazelle Valley is and why we're here.
Okay, Ika, it's your.
Okay, so now I'm talking to you, to everybody, but basically, in a nutshell, what is the story of the Gazelle Valley? So we're an urban wildlife site. We're basically in the middle of Jerusalem. You could say in the middle of Jerusalem. We're kind of in the west, in the southwestern area of Jerusalem, but not in any corner. We're surrounded by neighborhoods, which you will see much better in other places in our.
You can't see the neighborhood
so
from
you
here.
can see a little bit. Yeah, we'll see more afterwards. You will see that as we walk along the fence, there's a main road all the time next to us. Okay.
You can hear it all the time. This is part of the magic of this place, that we're in the central, most trafficked junction in the city. Tzomet Pat, if anybody knows Jerusalem, it's a very, very
extremely central part of the extremely central intersection in Jerusalem. So as I said, an urban wildlife site. To make the very long story short, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, there were orchards here, which became just not worth, not financially viable in the mid 80s. In the 90s, 5 kibbutzim wanted to build a, let's keep walking.
Yeah.
5 kibbutzim wanted to build 1,400 housing units here, which it provoked a hue and cry from the neighborhoods, from the neighbors nearby, who said basically, this is our green area, this is our picnic area, this is where the gazelles live, this is not a place to build another neighborhood. The public struggle and legal struggle went on for, depends how you count, about 15 years. And from 2012 to 2015, once court ruled that the place will stay an open space for the sake of the citizens in the city, in 2015, we reopened after doing some basic work, very minimal work here, building the entrance building, the fence, and some accessible, wheelchair accessible paths to serve people. At the same time, we did some work to serve nature, such as building a big pool, planting a lot of local Israeli plants, and laying a irrigation system in order that some stuff will survive the first couple of years, because if you plant local plants, you don't really need to water them apart from the first year or so. So that's what we have here.
So it's nice that you said a pool, because there was a webinar about the amazing water system in the Gazelle Valley, which is the very unique way that we've
you're going to need to say those 2 sentences again, because somebody phoned me, and actually my daughter, and we got muted for a second.
Okay, so Ika was saying a large pool, but I want to correct it and say that there is an amazing water system here that is was built in order to create a stream, a natural stream that actually was here, and it became a water system that gives example to Israel and other countries how to manage runoff water in semi-desert places. But we're not going to talk about the water system today.
Somebody just asked, how big is the valley? So first of all, if you don't mind, I'll go above Yael's head and show the size. Okay, you see the neighborhoods around it. Now we know cameras can be tricky, so that's not really a good answer. We're talking about 250 dunam, which in acres is about, you need to divide that by 4 if I'm not mistaken. But
80 dunam?
80 yeah, but if you're translating from
okay, the fence, so we have a 2-kilometer long fence. We have 3 entrances to the Gazelle Valley, equal entrances. There are actually a doubled gate. People come in, the gate closes behind them, and then they can open the other gate. That prevents from the wildlife to go outside from the Gazelle Valley and the predators to enter the Gazelle Valley, and people can walk freely inside and outside. The Gazelle Valley is completely free of charge, and it's open from 6:30 in the morning to sunset. But other than that, we have this fence that is 2.5 meters high and has and goes beneath the ground for another half meters, because we know that the jackals are very, very, very good diggers, and we don't want them to enter the Gazelle Valley. And now we're walking inside the area of the gazelles, the natural core, we can call it, which people are not supposed to walk here.
We should backtrack, I think, and say the Gazelle Valley is divided into two, very, very roughly, very generally into two areas. There is the natural core, which is where we are now walking, which is where visitors are not supposed to visit. That's the yellow rope that we walked under. And this is kind of what a part of it looks like. And there is the part that's designed and made for humans to walk through and to enjoy, to use, I would say, a bit more. I'm surprised I haven't yet seen anybody ask how many gazelles do we have here, because I didn't say that when I explained the valley.
We're going to soon talk about that. But first I want to show this
lovely pile of poop.
And if you were here, I would let you smell it and go like this and try to open it to see what gazelles actually eat. So you can see that they eat this, everything around us. Grass, leaves. They love fruits. They love our fruit that grows in the orchard. Where the first we acted first come first serve. If the gazelles come first to the nectarines that are starting to pop up now, they get them first. If the people, they get them first. But this pile of poop is important for us to understand how the gazelles live as a herd. So we have a herd of females that live around here. And to those females, we have one male that dominates this area. And he's the only one that can actually get close to those females and have their baby gazelles and help them to have their baby gazelles. And a lot of the information about this male is in this pile of poop, because he comes to it again and again, marking his territory by the smell and by visiting it again. And the female gazelle can smell it and understand a lot of things that she would like to know about this male that she's going to
mate with.
So imagine like an Excel table that pops up every time you go into some website telling you things you would like to know about the blind date that you're going to now. So this is what happens when she smells the pile of this pile of poop.
So basically what we just looked at is the gazelle Tinder.
Completely. Okay, I really hope we'll see some gazelles. Now here is one.
Papa.
Oh, that was. Did you catch it, Ika?
I don't know if.
Lawrence, did you guys see it? So here we have.
No, it's too far away. Gazelles are much easier. It's much easier to see animals when you're holding them right in front of the camera, like the tortoises.
Yeah, but gazelles don't usually walk around alone.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about how many gazelles we have and what we started with.
So if you don't mind, wait a minute, Yael, I think you keep talking and I'll aim the camera at where we're walking. So okay. Maybe that improves the chance of actually people seeing a gazelle.
And tell us if you see gazelles.
Okay, so keep going.
Okay. When the Gazelle Valley was fenced in 2014 for the first time, we had only 3 gazelles that survived.
Females, while you're at it?
Out of a herd of 35 gazelles that were trapped here when they were building the road.
When they built the new roads all around.
I'll go here so you can watch the gazelle. Okay. I see another one. Do you see the gazelle there?
No.
I'm not sure the camera can capture it. Between the 2 olive trees. It's looking right at us.
Yeah. See it? I don't know if...
I'm quite happy if people want to write in the chat whether they can see the gazelle or not, because I cannot see it from my house at all.
But it will probably jump up and run pretty soon. So we'll keep...
Maybe Lawrence can add some videos of the gazelles running.
Yeah, so I don't mind playing.
Wait. It will realize that we're close, and it will get up and run. And what we see here is the bed where they like to rest.
Right.
So what we've got over here, you see everything is this high standing kind of yellowish vegetation. And suddenly you see some squashed, a squashed area, right here. This is where mommy gazelle was probably laying down to rest while she was nursing her youngsters. Surprised he hasn't yet gotten up and run.
So I'm gonna go on and talk about, so we had 3 gazelles here, females. Of course, we understood that we cannot create a herd with 3 gazelles. And
3 females.
3 females, of course. And we thought, is this just a name that we're leaving to this park in remembrance of the 35 gazelles that were here? And then we decided that we're gonna bring here gazelles, imprinted gazelles, gazelles that were taken illegally, just like the tortoises actually, from nature, and brought into homes. So it's not very common like the tortoises, but there are people in Israel doing that. Some are doing it because they think they're doing the gazelles a favor. When a mom neglected the young gazelle and they're...
Didn't really neglect the young gazelle. That's what they think.
Yeah, of course, of course. So they think they're doing a favor and they're taking them home. And then by the time the baby gazelle sees this human being, he immediately thinks he's his caregiver, and he will, and the mother will himself predators, and he will not will not have breastfeed from his mother. And those gazelles are doomed for life, just like tortoises. So we got about 11 of those, and we were thinking, okay, we're not a Gazelle Valley anymore. We're inside a state. It's going to be a place that we're taken from nature, and we're gonna raise them here. But after 2 years, we found out that
the babies behave like real gazelles. The babies don't behave like imprinted gazelles. They behave totally natural.
Right, that the next and the 3rd and the 4th and now the 5th generations get back what they lost. The ability to live in nature, to protect themselves from predators, even though the mom was damaged.
Imprinted.
Yeah, and Ika, you got a really bad signal here.
Really bad signal. Then let's stop walking.
Move.
Let's stop walking.
Don't stop here. Keep going.
So maybe, Lawrence, you can now show some movies about that you have of gazelles, because we'll go back to a place where the reception is better.
Cool.
So
and then we'll do some questions. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll just end the talk about the gazelles to say that after 6 years, 5-6 years from where we started with 3 gazelles, we now have more than 80 gazelles, and we're starting to think about the release of gazelles back to nature after we found out that the 4th and 5th generations are completely not imprinted, and we can actually start giving back to nature, to places that the gazelles are decreasing.
Decreasing, yeah. Let's just put this into context. In the 90s, in the early 90s, there were what, 20,000 gazelles
in Israel?
All over Israel. And nowadays we're talking about 3,000 or 4,000. The optimists say 5,000.
But not much more. And
definitely not more.
And this is the last place in the whole world where we still have this Israeli gazelle, or gazelle, how they call it, the biological
biological terms.
So we have a responsibility here. This is in our lifetime. Here, it's our responsibility to not
not let the numbers continue to decrease. Right. That's our responsibility. We know what to do. Nowadays, we know that preserving the habitat is the way to preserve the species. And we know that that's what we need to do. We know that growing cities need to have urban wildlife sites inside them. Urban wildlife isn't always the greenest thing that's the most fun to photograph, but it's what the wildlife is supposed to look like. What the wild is supposed to look like. If you'd come here 2 months ago, 3 months ago, you would see everything green. Now everything's going to be yellow for a couple of months. Around August, September, you get the first new plants again.
Right. So now we're open to questions, Lawrence.
Okay. So I was going to show a video. Let me show a video for 2 minutes of the gazelles, and then we can ask questions. They're asking lots of questions about campaigns and stuff. All right. Okay, guys, I'm going to mute you, and then we will question away. Hold on. No. Had it all lined up. Had it all ready. Stop. No. There we go. Okay. Sorry, everyone. Okay. Let's go. Oh, okay. The video. Okay.
Gazelles are hybrids. Yes, there's a lot of gazelle hybrid questions. Okay.
Okay. So.
Hi there. Welcome to Gazelle Valley. It's Jerusalem's newest urban wildlife park, a part of a new initiative of the Jerusalem municipality and the neighborhoods around us that decided that this beautiful place should stay open, free access, full of wildlife, and you're more than welcome to enjoy it. Come on. Gazelle Valley is not only about nature, it's about people. And this park would have never been opened without the people that live around this valley. Community created a design framework that enabled to create a program for a park here. And this program was approved by the planning authority. And not only that, the Jerusalem municipality made sure that this dream comes true. And what you see here is the way the park actually is a part of the water system in the city. All this water that is used in the park for biodiversity and recreation is based on runoff water that comes from the paved streets in the city. This is where it's basically collected in a big reservoir and then recycled, purified, and becomes a habitat for birds, for insects, for a lot of wildlife, and of course a place that attracts a lot of people. Respect nature, treat nature well, it will treat you back the same way.
All right. Awesome. Are you guys unmuted? Yael, Ika, can we hear you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're back now.
All right. Okay. All right. I'll ask questions. You can answer them much easier. Okay. Okay. Eva, easy one to start with. Is the Gazelle? How do you get to the Gazelle Valley in Jerusalem? Is it easy to find?
Extremely easy. If you
Google or Waze.
if you drive in Israel, you should have Waze on your phone. I don't know where Eva is from, but if you ever come to Israel, you drive with Waze. On Waze, you write the Gazelle Valley, and it will take you directly to the parking lot.
But we're very much connected to public transportation here. This area that we're sitting beneath now is going to be the next line of the light rail in 1 or 2 years from now. And we're going to have 2 stations near the Gazelle Valley, one in the eastern part and one more to the west. They'll both be less than 5 minutes walk to the main gate of the Gazelle Valley. Now we have lots of public transportation coming here to Tzomit Pat and allowing people to come without private transportation.
But what you need to know if you don't have a car.
Yes, there's great bus networks. They have a new bus stop with a very, very complicated one-way system when you exit the park. Okay, so someone asked, M. Kameen asks, no? Yeah, what do the gazelles eat in the park?
What's a gazelle what?
Eat?
What do they eat, yeah.
They
what do they eat? Wait, let's answer this way.
Okay.
Take your pick.
Yeah.
We just happen to be sitting under a tree. There are all kinds of weeds and stuff. They eat what they would eat in nature.
Yeah, and the greener it is, they love it more. It gives them water. They don't have to drink water. They like drinking water, but they don't have to drink water. We have gazelles in very dried areas in Israel, areas that there is no water there all through the summer, and they survive from the greenery of the leaves.
Okay. So Wendy asked, are there any problems with the gazelles in breeding?
In breeding.
Incest in the gazelle community.
We actually found out that we have a very, very good breeding rate. We have every female gazelle has one baby gazelle each year, which is a very, very good number.
I think the question was a genetic question. If I understand correct, the question was a genetic one?
Yeah, it was more about genetics, yeah.
Genetics, okay.
So as far as we know right now,
there was no problem. The gazelles, the first 11 gazelles were brought from all over the country. So we know that the first 11 ones were very, very different, genetically speaking. And ecologists say we don't have a problem for a very long time. And we know that the male, the dominant male, was changed twice since they fight for being the dominant male. So it was changed twice during the 5 years that the park was established. So now we don't have a problem now.
We'll keep our eyes open, basically, is the best we can say.
We're constantly monitoring and understanding and researching these aspects together with the best people in Israel dealing with the Israeli gazelle.
I think when you're trying to deal with a complicated question like gazelles going extinct, urban wildlife and stuff, sometimes you just need to do the best you can, even if it's not 100% the best.
Yeah, I'll just add to that answer. There's a lot of collaboration with with Tel Aviv University, the zoos, the Park and Nature Authority to keep a healthy population in the Gazelle Valley. As Yael mentioned, we're hopefully gonna hit a milestone in the Gazelle Valley's life cycle in actually releasing gazelles from the valley back into the wild. We're really grateful to everyone who donated in December 2019 to our appeal to do this. And it was delayed by obviously COVID sort of ruined everything last year, but now we're hoping in the next few weeks to actually get releasing the gazelles. And Yael has promised A, that she's going to try and release the gazelles, and B, she's going to do another webinar on the gazelle release in a couple of months' time, whether it's successful or not successful, but hopefully successful. And she's promised to invite me to see.
I think somebody asked about the ibexes. Lawrence.
Yeah.
Someone asked about the ibexes.
Yeah. You cannot. Do you have to? So basically, someone asked whether we have the gazelles in Engedi? And the answer is they're not gazelles, they're ibexes, which are a different animal altogether.
Engedi is ibex.
They look similar. It's a different animal. It's a totally different species. It's not the same animal. I mean,
yeah.
We do have other gazelles. We have a group of about 30 gazelles that's called Hashitim, Tzvi Hashitim. They're located.
There's 3 types of gazelle in Israel.
In the areas of the northern desert and up to the Golan Heights.
Yeah. Sorry, Colin. Sorry, I thought it was my sound, which is why I interrupted her. Sorry, Yael. Alan wants to know about school groups coming to the park. Like, how do classes come here? What type of experience do they get?
Lawrence, we didn't hear that.
I'm sorry.
We didn't hear that.
Sorry. Alan asked, does the park have school groups? Do you have classes of children coming? What type of educational programming do they get? Is it just Jewish schools, or do we have Arabs, Israeli Arabs?
We have a lot of schools coming from Jerusalem and the whole Israel. Muslims, Christians, Jews, whatever. And we're gonna go. We're gonna go into a very, very interesting project in the next year. After the Corona year, the education department in Jerusalem municipality understood that studying outside is a great idea. So we're gonna start a very, very large scale project here in Gazelle Valley, having 10 schools coming for one whole day each week to study outside in the Gazelle Valley. And we're working now on this program with them. And I hope we can update you in the 30th of September after we see how it starts out in the first month of the next year, school year.
Can I add? That is, if I may add, then the outdoor ed sounds amazing. Correct, it does sound amazing, we agree. If I may add, I think it's important to understand that for those who didn't see previous webinars of ours, look, the Gazelle Valley is a public space. It's an open space. It means that the place is fenced off on the one hand, like we showed you, but on the other hand, it's free of charge and you don't need to coordinate your showing up here. So not in addition to what Yael just said, you know, you have an occasional random school showing up. They don't need to coordinate with us. They don't need to nothing. They just show up, do their educational stuff and go home. So there's more than just, I mean, it's not only about what schools come here and do education. So who comes and just enjoys the open space.
It's a place of sanity here, in a corner of sanity here in Jerusalem. I think we felt that in the past 2 weeks, where everything outside felt crazy, and here it felt like a very, very safe place. Our team is have Arabs, Jews working together. Everything here felt very, very normal and calm. And I think this is what natural areas inside urban areas do. They create sanity in this hectic and impossible place we're sometimes live in. And I think if there were more places like this, maybe things would, the world would be better.
The world would be safe.
Yeah.
What would we do there?
Okay, so I'm just gonna say that we're at the top of the hour and we still have quite a lot of questions. So we're gonna keep, I'm quite happy to keep answering questions if Ika and Yael have a few more minutes. But for those who want to go, just want to say thank you very much for joining us today. As I said at the beginning, if you're interested in how the history of the park and how we developed it into really what it is today, come back in 2 weeks' time for our webinar with SPNI's Director of Urban Nature, Emir Balaban, who will be talking all about that and will be able to answer many questions.
Somebody asked about the volunteering.
Yeah. So I was just going to come to that, but I'm just going to say, sorry, Ika, before we go back to the questions, I just want to say also, we are a charity and we do rely on donations to continue doing amazing projects like this. What I said at the beginning, this is a Jerusalem Municipal Park. It was funds from charitable donations, which gave us the ability to plan this place and turn it into the park that you see today. So if you want to see more of these places in Israel, please donate to us. We have a couple of other urban nature parks like this in various stages of planning, and we would love to make them happen if we can. So thank you very much for joining us. And if you're in Israel or visiting Israel, let us know, send us an email, and we'd be delighted to meet you in the park and show you around. As I said, and now back to the questions. Ika, now you can answer your question about volunteering.
Somebody asked about volunteering, and if you can just post Amanda's email address.
She would love to have you here.
She would love to have you all here.
Yeah.
If you're interested in volunteering, email me, which is international@spni.org.il. Just reply to the email about this webinar, and I will connect you with Amanda. And she's in charge of the volunteers there. So Paul asked, what happens if there's not enough water to support the environment or animals? Yeah, Ika, you're muted.
Can
Lawrence,
you repeat the question, please?
So, sure. So Paul asked about the water. What happens during the summer when there's not enough water to sustain nature?
in the summer, we have water coming from the sewage treatment system here in Jerusalem. So they pump here the water, and the stream goes on running in the summer as well as in the winter. So we changed it changed from runoff water to treated water.
Naturally treated water.
So
I want to add that also the water doesn't seep down to the aquifer so fast, because what happens is some of the water from the big pond at the end of the from the big pond at the end of the water system seeps, and some of it gets not recycled, taken to the top. Taken to the top of the valley, and it flows down the stream again.
Through the vegetation, through the ground, and when it does sink, penetrates down to the aquifer, it's much cleaner than it was when it just came in the beginning.
Well, we could do a whole webinar about the water system in the Gazelle Valley. One day we will do a webinar about the water system.
There was one webinar about the water system, Lawrence, you forgot.
We have done one, but we have to do like a proper professional one. Gloria, who may well have left, asked about the procedure for releasing the gazelles. And all I would say is when we do that webinar, we will find out, because I understand it's very complicated. And also a bit, the gazelles, again, it depends on the gazelles performing and going where they're meant to be. So someone asked right at the beginning about the tortoises. So let me find some question about tortoises. So Susan asked, how does the vet know the tortoises aren't diseased and can be released back into the park or out into nature?
The vet know?
How the tortoises are disease-free.
Well, he knows how they're supposed to be when they're healthy. He sees, he watches their shells. If it's not soft or bumpy or doesn't have anything covering it, he looks for kartiot,
Leeches, ticks, etc.
Ticks on its body. He can identify herpes. He sees if they have problems breathing. Sometimes it affects their breathing system. So he has a lot of ways of checking if the tortoises are well and can be released to nature.
Okay, so Ika, I've got a couple of people who aren't particularly impressed with your explanation of how to get to the Gazelle Valley using Waze.
So not particularly impressed. Okay.
No, so could you give a slightly better directions, please?
Okay. So either you come. So if you're coming on public transportation, what you want to get to is PAT intersection. There are maybe 8 or 10 different bus lines that reach this intersection. And from the PAT intersection, it's a 3-minute walk to the entrance of the valley. That's if you're coming on public transportation. If you want an address to write, you want to write Shachal Street.
Number 1.
Number 1. Shachal is S-H-A, I guess C-H-A-L. At the bottom of the street, you will already see signs that direct you to the Gazelle Valley. That's if you want an address. An address is not generally what we use in Israel. In Israel, we use Waze, W-A-Z-E. From people that have traveled more than me over the last few years, I gather that you use it in other places in the world as well. It's very, very easy. You download Waze or you Google the Gazelle Valley, Jerusalem.
Google Maps has
honestly, it's really the easiest thing to get to as soon as you want. We're available on the phone, we're available on Facebook, we're available on email. Jacob's Ladder, that's correct. Martha, thank you. Jacob's Ladder is a kind of a monument, I would call it.
Sculpture.
Yeah, at the entrance.
Sculpture by Ezra Orion that is very, very famous in Jerusalem. It's right near the entrance to the Gazelle Valley.
Yeah, Givat Mordechai, what Martha is writing now, is the name of the neighborhood that's nearest to the most convenient entrance.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I honestly don't know how to answer that better. If you,
yeah, I would just say that the Gazelle Valley is not obscure at all. Like it's a main public park, and you will be able to find it on the internet with no problems. Lucy and a couple of other people have asked about gazelles in other places in Israel. So Lucy asked, are there other parks with gazelles in them, like Park Hayakon? Are there gazelles in Park Hayakon, which I'm pretty sure they're not so much.
There are no gazelles in Park Hayakon. There are gazelles in the Golan Heights, in the Galil, in the Carmel, in the Jerusalem region. It has about 10% of the gazelles population in Israel, and all the way to the south in the northern parts of the Negev. There are gazelles. They except for here that they live inside the city. There are gazelles and wildlife in Israel surrounding cities, but not like here inside the city.
And also Martha's asking about how the gazelles are doing. So I guess the campaign in Ramot.
Ramot. I heard Ramot. I didn't hear much more.
So what about the gazelle? What about
Valley?
Okay.
Okay.
How's all that going? Well, have you got an update on that project?
Do you want to do that?
Well, there are gazelles. As I said, in the Jerusalem region, there are 10% of the gazelle population. They live in the some of the areas are connected ecologically to other parts, other green areas in Israel, but some are like Gazelle Valley, are blocked with infrastructure, and there are a closed area that we still have gazelles. We have, I don't know the numbers exactly in Razim, I can find out, but we still have and see gazelles there. They're not connected to the population outside, no, because there are, there's the Gader Afrada, and there are other, there is a very big road that and blocks them on the east, and there is Mevaseret, and there is a lot of infrastructure.
But they do have a very large area.
They have a large area, but they're endangered, and we know that there's supposed to be another very big housing project in Gazelle Valley. So this is one of the populations that would get very much harmed by a project like that and by development. And then there are other projects in the western side of Jerusalem, what we know from the past as Safdi project. Now it's called the Western Side Project of Israel. They have many names. Ora, the Ora project, and there is a very large herd of gazelles living there. They are connected to other open areas surrounding Jerusalem, but as the development increases, especially outside Jerusalem, sending more and more neighborhoods and outside and not infilling the inner city, it leaves not a lot of space for the gazelles to live and grow, and it's part of the problem. This is exactly the problem that we talked about, shrinking the open areas in Israel.
Okay, so I'm going to go with the last question of today. So someone asked, I can't find the exact question, but what happened to the animals during the last couple of weeks of the fighting? How did they react to the sirens and the rockets? And did any get hurt? And if so, how were they looked after?
Gazelle Valley hear a lot of sirens, but they're very much used to a lot of noise, city noise. You heard some of this city noise. So I don't think it affected the gazelles here. I actually don't know what happened to gazelles outside of this area. I think in a way, just like happened in the Corona, people didn't go outside. So they actually benefited from that. There is a lot of pressure on the open areas from people not being able to go abroad these days. And this pressure brings garbage to the open areas, brings a lot of people, cars, and so I think in a way, maybe the animals even benefited from situations like that, like Corona and like kind of war.
Yeah,
that people don't go outside.
I would just add to that, there was one monkey in, I think it was the Tel Aviv's Ramadan Safari. Who got
There was a monkey in the safari that actually got hit by
a missile.
A missile that was sent to the urban areas of Israel, to Ramat Gan.
The safari posted a YouTube of the elephants responding to the siren. Stuff happens. We don't really know.
We don't really know what happens to them. Maybe we're not. I know that noise influences wildlife, but it's not. It's usually ongoing noise and not just one siren
every now and then.
Every now and then. But again, I don't know. They haven't researched this subject.
Okay. Okay. So I guess the last question is, how many gazelles do you think can live in the valley before you get to overcrowding?
How many gazelles live here now, or how many can live here?
Or do you think can live here? What's the carrying capacity, do you think?
What's our capacity, gazelle-wise?
Really know. We don't really know. We're as we said before, we are researching everything about the gazelles all the time. We have a crew of people watching them every day. This is some of the things the volunteers do together with our staff. And we still don't see that there is a problem with too many gazelles. We see that the grass.
No.
There's still enough. So, but we're going to try to release some of the we are going to try to release some of the gazelles this year, and then a bunch more next year. So we think we don't want to go over the capacity that is possible to have here, but we're still not.
Okay, thank you, Yael and Ika, and thanks very much, especially for this extra time. As I said, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a webinar about the Gazelle Valley's history and development. But really, anyone who's on this webinar, any of our supporters, listeners, we invite you to come to the Gazelle Valley. Like it's one thing to see it through Ika's phone, and there's another thing to actually experience it for yourself. Every time I've been is a really different experience. I've seen, you know, sometimes the gazelles are great, sometimes the birds are great, sometimes the other animals, you know, sometimes, you know, it's, you know, the amphibians at the moment are great. Their frogs are jumping around in the pool. So really, we hope you enjoyed today, and will visit us in the future. Just send me an email. My email again is Lawrence, LAWRENCE @sbni.org.il. You can reply to the email you got today about the webinar. You can also email me at international@sbni.org.il, and let me know when you want to come, and hopefully we can make a time to meet up. And even Yael might be there as well if you're lucky, although she wasn't there the last time I went. She was, I think, in Haifa. But anyway, so Yael, you'll be back in a couple of months to tell us about releasing the gazelles. Ika, I'm sure we'll see you again soon. And everyone have a great evening or day. Bye-bye.